Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, man, welcome to that hit show of stories written by a current prisoner. It's your boy Tony, man. Man, we got the dynamic duo, man, combining once again, man, coming together once again, man. Flacco, bro, how you doing, man?
How you doing, brother? Man, it's a pleasure to be back on where this all started for me.
Oh, man, thank you, man. The pleasure's all mine. Thank you for blessing us with your presence, man. For those of you that don't know, man, me and Flacco, man, we used to go hard, man. I honestly feel that we are somewhat starters of the Chicano prison genre, man. Up until this point, man, there wasn't really nobody really doing it out there, man, Flacco, right?
Yeah, you had Boxer telling his stories, you had Mundo, man, but we kind of took it to a whole different level, man, as far as telling other stories and bringing guests on. And it was a struggle in the beginning. People don't realize, man, that we had a lot of people that didn't want to mess with us in the beginning. Some people thought it was a joke that you weren't going to be able to establish a channel this way, and you were able to prove them wrong, brother. And I'm glad I was a part of it.
Oh, man, thank you, man. And it was all due to your assistance and to the assistance of many other inmates out there, and also as well as several other YouTubers out there, man, that paved the way for all of us, man, to be able to just, speak freely, man. So thank you to all you guys who assisted me, for sure, man. So we're going to go ahead and jump into one fascinating topic, Flacco, man. In particular, man, of a Nuestra Familia General, man, of Tibbs, man. You always hear about these notorious Nuestra Familia members. You hear about Tibbs, you hear about Chuco, you hear about Flacco, you hear about all these different notorious names. What can you tell me? What sticks out to you when I bring up the name Tibbs?
Now, everybody that I've talked to that knew Tibbs, right, and this is what they've really kind of spoken over and over again, is he had foresight. He was a thinker. He was a plan. He prepared. Like, he thought 10 years ahead instead of just the short-term gratification of achieving things. So he was a very insightful individual. I mean, he gave himself the name Tiberius, which was a ruler in Rome that was very intelligent, that brought leadership skills and politicking to a whole nother level at that time era. So and I know some people that had a huge impact on him, man. My boy Glenn Hobo Holden. They were cellies at two different locations. He got recruited around 1978, if I'm not mistaken, from what I was told. And everybody seen that he was going to be a leader. He was a Vietnam vet who did some service over there. He fought, and
He was a Vietnam vet? No way.
yes,
I had no idea.
he was a Vietnam vet. Hobo told me that when they were cellies, he would sleep on the floor, right? And he would wake up in the middle of the night yelling different people's names, like screaming. And he'd have to shake him like, hey, like fucking, I'm not Paul, I'm not whoever, you know what I mean? So he had a lot of flashbacks from the war, man. And I think when he came back, I've heard, he was a bank robber. That was one of his things he was doing, man. And they say that he was intelligent at the level of like, college professors and so forth, you know what I mean? That he had that type of insight. And he used to always think of plans like, I've heard stories of him doing bank robberies with his kid in the car because they wouldn't suspect someone that had their kid would go do a bank robbery. That's the kind of thinker he was. There's not many people that I know that have a bad thing to say about the man.
Where's Tibbs from? Where's he originally from?
Okay, when you hear his name, they always say San Jose, but I've heard that he's originally from Hanford. You know what I'm saying? So he's a combination of being from San Jose and Hanford as well. I don't think he had the traditional, upper. A lot of these, believe it or not, a lot of these NF dudes, right, were not traditional like street gang members in that time era. They were just dudes that came to prison, man, that just had a whole different type of thinking process. Some of them were gang members, but a lot of them were not, believe it or not.
The other day I was doing a little profile on this individual by the name of Cartoon, and right away Tibbs came up into my mind only due to the simple fact that his kind of situation kind of resembles the same situation as Little Spider. Now, Little Spider had his wife killed for whatever reason, for violating rules to the mob or whatever. But isn't that kind of the same situation as Nuestra Familia member Tibbs?
Well, Tibbs was a whole different type of situation. The thing with Tibbs was this, man, is I don't know if he was demoted in rank or if he stepped down because of age and health. But I know that was something that was going on around that time. I don't know the intricate details, but there was already kind of talk being spoken about him from what I heard, man, by some of the things that he was diving into. You know what I'm saying? Like he was starting to have a position on the Fed state issue. That was one of the things that was really a major addressal. You know what I'm saying? And some people think he may have been losing his mind, but he's old. You know what I mean? He was like in his 70s already. You know, a lot of these people forget, man, that these dudes are legends in their time era. Like his workouts were legendary. But there comes a time when you get old and age catches up to you and you're no longer the same person.
Would you be able to define these workouts? What makes these workouts so legendary?
Oh, man, he'd be having 122 counts, 114 counts, 110 counts. And then when they're done, oh, you guys think we're done? Let's go back again and just do it. He was a carnal through and through, like what you call the true meaning of a familiano. So he always felt like he had to set the standards higher for everybody else because he wanted to live up to, this is what, regardless of what people may think about certain individuals, everybody has an ego when it comes to this, right? They want to be recognized. They want people to be respected. So he was one of those ones that wanted to shine in front of others. You know what I mean? That this, even though he didn't exhibit that directly, but I think inside he wanted to show everybody and push everybody by setting an example. Because it's like if you're in a household, what you'd call a household, right, which is where all the homeboys are, whatever section or pod or you're in, you're going to respect someone who goes and gets down and gets busy and pushes that agenda, as opposed to someone who just wants to sit on their ass and get high all day. You know what I'm saying? He used to set the examples for others to follow.
What is your mindset? What is your perspective on and correct me if I'm mistaken, where is your perspective on Tibbs having his wife killed? Or was it his wife or was it his girlfriend? I heard something along the lines like that.
Okay, I'm gonna go into a little bit of details without exposing anything, right? Because it's still an open case. Okay, that whole thing that the media put out there about her is straight false. It's false information. It's bullshit. Okay, no disrespect to her or her loved ones or her family, but she wasn't no innocent woman out there in the streets, man. You know what I'm saying? There was stuff that she was I'm not going to name names because some of these people are still out there. She was involved in a Backpage, which means she was actually selling herself. I said she was involved. She was involved in what you call Backpage. Can you hear me?
Okay, not hear you. Yes,
she was involved in Backpage. Her and some friends got some dope from the regiment. They started using. They got in debt, so they came up with a plan to start selling herself. Right. Another scenario out there, she was allegedly seeing a Sureño on the down low, right? In addition to that, the other issue was that there was a particular female that they wanted her to get in contact with, and she refused to do it, and she felt like that Tibbs was going to save her. So she wasn't out there, trying to leave the gang lifestyle or none of that. What the media put out there is all false, and basically she became a liability. I don't agree with any of that, murdering people or anything like that today, right? But if you're going to go through the true essence of what the mob's about, the organization, technically she had to go. You know what I'm saying? And that's the truth of it. And those are decisions that sometimes may be hard to make. But I know Tibbs always had experiences with women. That was his downfall too, though. So, you kind of got to set an example. Okay, she didn't want to comply. She didn't want to do this. She's going to get hit. There's more to it that I know, but like I said, it's an open case, so I'm not going to sit there and discuss it. But that thing was very, very well thought out and how it came out. You know what I'm saying?
So wasn't it that ended up happening to her? They just found her shot to death out there in the woods or something? Up
there in Pacheco Pass, man. Is it Mount Madonna? Mount Madonna, which is the area that goes through Watsonville to Gilroy, and there's been hits all over that place, man. It's a trip out there, man. You know what I'm saying? I used to go out there with my ex-wife. We used to go up there, and like there's no one out there. It's like a little 20-mile drive through the hills, and there's so many locations just to pull over, and it's natural to drive through there and have people pulled over. So the cops don't harass you. But there's some evil shit up there too, bro. You know what I'm saying? I think with all the spirits of all the deaths that occurred, because that used to be a place where the NF would dump bodies at times, take them up there and just drop them off. You know what I mean? But yeah, they found her dead up there in the hills. You can already tell the only way they can get that close to her, she had to have been around somebody that knew her. There's a lot of allegations about who did it, you know what I mean? And pretty much law enforcement have a good idea. They just can't prove it. You know what I'm saying? They can't prove what happened. And I know that was part of the reasons why when he filed a compassionate release, the reason why I was told he was denied that was because of having his wife murdered. But she wasn't a real wife. She was just basically a runner. She was a young chick. I mean, he's in his 60s. She's like in her 20s. I mean, young 20s. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you know, there's really like, I don't think there was really like a real relationship like that. She was just a valuable asset. And as soon as she no longer became an asset, she became expendable. And the way in which she was conducting herself was pretty much, you know, not appropriate behavior, especially being a general's wife. At the time, he was still a general. I don't know when the transition changed from Tibbs to Skip, but eventually Skip basically took over a position as a general. And but this was way back in 2006, you know.
Based off your knowledge, is there another kind of situation that kind of resembles this one? You know, something that's something a little cold. You know, maybe they took out their brother, maybe another girlfriend, maybe a father or something sick and twisted that sticks out in your mind.
Well, there was a female one time that used to be out there, I think in the Tulare County area way back in the 90s, man. And what she was doing, she was getting a lot of brothers hit. She was like basically smutting up dudes, sleeping with dudes. And they called her the Black Widow. You know what I'm saying? That was way back before my time era. That's one case, you know what I mean? You know.
Oh, she used to just sleep with dudes and set them up?
Well, like she would just get dudes crossed up. You know what I'm saying? There's there's been a lot of hits that have happened that were over women, believe it or not, that nobody talks about. Some of those hits that happened, I'm not going to discuss them, but some of those hits in the 90s in San Jose were some women crossing up issues. Those are facts. Everybody knows it. They were kind of senseless hits. They were just personal things, or, you know, the bra was around going out there, and people that had status took it personal. You know what I'm saying? And they used it as leverage just to have other dudes hit. You know, those are truths. I mean, no one really talks about it, and I'm not going to go into details, but anybody from the San Jose area that knows about some of those hits, you know, I mean, there was about 2 or 3 that were over females. You know, what's his name? You know, Silent allegedly had his girlfriend hit based upon the same thing, that they felt that she was going to be a threat to talent on him. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I'm not going to speak on it too because he's still active and whatnot, and I don't want to insult nobody. But I know that was a hard decision from those that I know that know him to make that, to, you know, pretty much co-sign on that. But more, see, the thing is that they're not really going to go after any just person's wife, family members, or not like that. They have to be involved in the mix. You know what I'm saying? They have to be doing things to where it could be a breach of security. That's why they always tell you, if you're going to have your family members involved, try to do it in a limited role, because if anything goes wrong, they could be the first targets. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, these guys are doing life, bro. So they're not worried about, you know what I'm saying, whether the person stays solid or not. Of course, they want the person to stay solid, but, you know, if they decide to work against them or flip, it's nothing just to put a green light on them. But, you know, there's situations that didn't involve women that were kind of similar, but like MC, that was like a call that a lot of people are bothered by, you know what I'm saying, from Salinas. And, you know, a lot of the O's justification was misappropriation of funds. It seems like every time someone's getting hit, it's over money. You know, misappropriated the money, you know, and whatnot. You know, but, you know, there's been prior situations where certain people's, you know, old ladies have owed huge money where they've almost got green lighted, right? But because someone stepped in that had a higher ranking authority stepped in, that green light was taken back. You know?
Wow.
You know, I mean, these are all true facts, man. I mean, these are situations that happen, man. And, you know what I'm saying? But that happens probably in every lifestyle, though, man. I mean, it's like I said, it's a very corrupt type of lifestyle, man. And those at the top are always going to have the position they want to play. Like everybody always talks when they're talking about the NMA, the NF, or all these organizations, right? They talk about the rules say this, the rules say this. But these are the dudes that make rules. So whatever the rule is what they say. It doesn't matter what it says in black and white. It's going to be, the rules are going to be what they decide to implement. And it's always been like that, but nobody wants to say anything about that. So all the bylaws, the scriptures and whatnot, that could be manipulated in any form or fashion. But at the end of the day, these dudes at the top are going to make policy and changes whenever they want.
Let me ask you something, since you just said that. You know, of course, everybody has it in their mind that, oh, you know, family members are off limits, you know, brothers are off limits, women are off limits and whatnot. But is that not true?
That is true.
Have you seen brothers get hit or anything like that? Sorry to cut you off right there.
Sometimes, I mean, it could be a brother that's if he's still active, but there's dudes that are still active that where their brothers dropped out or did this and that. It doesn't fall upon them because that's an individual choice. You know what I'm saying? You see, all these groups don't want to be looked at as fucking what's the right word? You know, they don't want to be looked at as like fucking just dudes that are fucking thugs and don't care about nobody. You know what I mean? They want to make sure that, yeah, they don't want to look like predators and people who just fucking thrive on fucking just killing people. So a senseless murder doesn't look good upon the organization. You know what I'm saying? So that's why family members are supposed to be off limits, and they've been off limits to my knowledge. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, but there'd have to be justification in it. Because as soon as someone does that, you're not only going to have the media have a field day, you're going to have law enforcement. They're going to sit there and say, okay, they're killing innocent civilians that have nothing to do with this. You know, now there could be some, casualties of war. You know what I'm saying? We're there. Okay, they got to get smoked. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, you know, civilians ain't supposed to be touched. Kids ain't supposed to be touched. You know what I mean? And that's why there's no cases of my knowledge of ever anyone's NF member's kid or let alone their wife or girlfriend, unless they had it coming. Now, if they're in the mix, it changes things. You get what I'm saying? That's the difference between the killings of certain people and those that have been given the pass. Because it's not your fault. You can't blame someone for what their brother does, their old man does, their you know what I mean? That's on them. That's a cross they have to carry. You know, so I know that there was that one case with the inmate, right, with Pelon, when the dude those kids, you know what I'm saying? What happened to him? They killed him right away because it made the mob look bad. It made the mafia look bad. That's not what they're about. You know what I'm saying? They're not heathens. They're not scoundrels. They're none of that stuff. All these organizations are elite professional criminal organizations. Therefore, they got to have that image. And if you start to kill innocent civilians, you're going to have a negative image. It's going to be tainted. It's going to be tarnished. And people are going to look at you in a whole negative perspective.
What is Tibbs' status right now? From my understanding, wasn't he stripped of status? Didn't he just get hit not that long ago? Out there in the federal penitentiary?
See, I don't know if he got demoted or if he stepped down or whatnot. I'm going to guess that maybe he stepped down because of age. I think maybe prior to that, they demoted him before they hit him too, though. I think he had already stepped down. And see, he was diving into Nation of Islam. You know what I'm saying? Muslim stuff. You know, his belief system started to change. And then, you know, he also started to speak up his mind about the state fed thing. I think at the end of the day that his actions started to look so scattered, and maybe he was so, defiant of certain things because he'd been a long time member, that maybe, you know what I'm saying, maybe he was losing his scruples a little bit. Maybe he was losing his mind. And maybe they looked at that as a threat. You know what I'm saying? A threat to their agenda, whether it was the state fed issue or a threat that maybe he'll flip. Because, I mean, think about it. The Nation of Islam has a whole different type of ideology, a system of beliefs. I cannot imagine anybody being part of a criminal organization, let alone a Chicano Hispanic one, being involved in the Nation of Islam. But see, he was that type of man that he was a thinker that I could see him trying to learn and study things, you know, but they ended up hitting him. You know, Cuete, you know, out of all people, they had Cuete hit him, who's another very shrewd individual, man, a master manipulator. I mean, I've heard stories, man, from people that I've talked to that got to know a little bit of details about him, that dude does not get a lot of credit for what he's been able to establish. He was doing a whole lot back then and playing his position. And so, and that's why I think they kept Cuete around. I think they kept Cuete around that, you know what, they knew that when push came to shove, they got someone that can make a move, because Cuete was fucking demoted to Cat 1 and was told that he was never to hold a position again. You know,
why was he demoted?
Well, okay, a lot of that had to do with unsanctioned hits that were going down. You know, a lot of the situation that happened with MC, he was involved in it. Because basically, okay, there was a lot of things going on. Like he was a reserve general, which meant when, you know, the grading system, he was the next one to take the reins. When, like, say if a general went out to court or went somewhere like that, they'd have someone that you call a reserve general that filled that position temporarily. So when Pinky went out to court, he filled that position. Well, at first, I think Tex held the position. And from my understanding, Tex wanted to relinquish the position to Cuete, and that they had an arrangement that Tex was still going to be given Salinas. But Cuete was trying to run all of California. As soon as he got that interim position as a SRG, which is a street regiment general, he thought Pinky was going to get death row. So he started basically campaigning to push his agenda. He probably yielded some of the highest power at that time, because before that he was the RSD, which meant all the reports were going to him. You know, all those little acronyms and things that were being implemented pre-Black Widow had came through him. But see, there was other killings that happened too that he was involved in. And he was giving green lights on a lot of individuals. You know what I'm saying? He was given a green light on the Brown Bob Cafe situation, which was voted on. The situation with MC, from my understanding, it was going to be put up for a vote, but it was never voted on. So Tex sent word for them to basically have dude hit before the word even got out there. You know what I'm saying? Brown Bob's, from my knowledge, was voted on. You know, then they were going to take out the DAs. You know what I'm saying? The district attorneys in San Jose. And after that, after they killed the DAs, the ones that were supposed to take out the DAs was going to be Happy from Lodi and motherfucker Asha Lee, Lizard. But Lizard had already been working with fucking the feds at that time before they were going to do the hit. And see, Lizard's directions was, as soon as they killed the DAs, he was supposed to take out Happy. Imagine that. Because Happy already had a lot of issues for his drug usage out there in the streets. You know, and he was a little bit, he's a soldier. Fucking Happy's a straight gangster, man, but he was always known to have addiction and to make mistakes out there. I mean, there was a time era when Happy was getting rushed on the Garden Tracy, you know, as a carnal. So, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on at that time that they was behind the scenes, you know, pulling the strings. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know, but there's a lot of stuff that I do. And like I said, man, he really knew how to play his position, man. And there was dudes that literally dropped out based upon the fact that Cuete had set them up to be the fall guy in a lot of these cases.
Based off your knowledge, man, can you tell me what was it that happened to Tibbs? Why did he get hit? Why did such a high-ranking NF member, someone 70 years old, get hit, man?
Well, I mean, you know, I kind of have an idea, or I do know who the people that were involved in it, man. And you know, one of those individuals was involved in one of the other biggest hits that people had the question about, right? And as well as two other individuals, you know, I mean, all out of I'll just say all out of Monterey County were the main people that were pushing that. And I don't know what the agenda was over it. You know, I mean, I don't know if maybe that he was on the yard and because of his long reigning status was pretty much pushing it up on individuals, and this was a something that was created and conspired. I don't know, but I think that there was enough stuff on there that they can make any case that they wanted. Basically, they just wanted to get rid of him. They probably felt that he was going to make waves with the Fed and state issue. They felt like he was losing his mind with the fucking Nation of Islam. So it was easier just to get rid of him. Therefore, you don't have to deal with him. He doesn't have no say. He doesn't have no word. And see, there's a lot of people, man, to my knowledge, that won't say nothing, that are active, that had a big issue with what happened. But there's so much other that's being just going on right now with the state feds and everything that it's better for them to wait it out till anybody voices their opinion. Because you voice your opinion, you're going to have issues sometimes. You know what I'm saying? You really got to have the support. See, it's just like with any other, there's campaigning, there's politicking and whatnot. And the ones that truly have a say are either those that are benefiting financially, the O as a whole, or those that have just been in position for years. You know, they hit him, then they transferred him. And from my understanding that, you know, he passed away several months later. And they didn't charge these guys with murder, you know what I'm saying? But I think after having a career of being a NF member for, 43 years, and to get hit by your own, and to have everything that he contributed to that organization, some of the teachings that he wrote, some of the indoctrination, some of all the things he was involved in, I think it really got to him, man, like his heart. I mean, think about it. You've committed to something for 40 years, right? And all of a sudden, own people turn their back because they don't agree with your thinking process. You know?
They created this stuff.
Exactly. But you got to remember, this is one thing people don't talk about. Tibbs got in the O when he wasn't that old. You know what I mean? He came in the system late, bro. You know, he was a late bloomer. Like I said, he was in Vietnam and all that. You know, so, you know, I know his mentor that ended up pulling him had been recruited back in 71, but Tibbs was still older than him. You know what I'm saying? So that's a trip. That's the thing I used to trip on, man, was, oh, wow. You know what I mean? You know, like I said, I have mixed feelings about him. He's no innocent person, man. You know, he had people killed. You know, you know what I'm saying? I know some dudes have a lot of love and respect for him. That's cool. You know what I mean? There's dudes that I know that are killers I have a lot of love and respect for. But let's not fool ourselves. These dudes were responsible for killings, bro. You know, people forget that. A lot of calls that happen, a lot of things that happen in our communities, bro. And, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, those that contribute so much havoc, you know what I'm saying, don't get to see that change in themselves. You know, I think he was broken, though. I think he was pretty much broken for everything that happened from him. And you know, he didn't know how to, you know, it's like being in a relationship with someone, you know what I mean? You say you've been with your girl for 15 years, man, and all of a sudden you don't see it coming and they get off with you. You're going to be devastated. Your emotions are going to be all over the place, you know, and I think that's what happened. I think it basically took him out. Because you hear people who've been in long relationships where their spouse dies and then several months later they die. His spouse was the NF. That's what he was married to. That's what he committed to. And so when it was taken away from him, that's all he ever knew. You know, I mean, you know,
it's crazy that you mentioned that. That way that you just stipulated it right now, that's pretty crazy when you think about that.
It's the truth, man. I mean,
it's twisted how people are so dedicated that seriously that's all they know. That's all they know is this gangbanging culture, man, is the cause. They live and breathe and die for that. And he did exactly that.
Exactly. You know, I mean, that's all I really have on that, man. You know, he was broken. So that stabbing did kill him. Whether it was physical stuff, he was already sick too. As you know what I mean? He was filing a compassionate release, which got denied. And the whole purpose it got denied, I was told, was because of having his wife killed. Even though they never charged him, they know they found a kite on him, man, or some that was pretty much supposed to circulate that addressed it, man. But you know, it is what it is, man.
What are the odds of them letting him out, though? Even still, him having his background, him being who he is, what are the odds of him actually getting that compassionate release?
You never know with the feds, man. You know what I'm saying? I think that I don't think he would have got it. See, a lot of the stuff that they got convicted of, man, they took deals at that time for one reason only, was they had co-defendants that were offered time if they pled guilty, because they could have stayed in jail and reaped the benefits of it. I think what happened was they pretty much tapped into everything that they could out there and had everything established. It was time to get to the feds now. You know, like I said, man, you know, the organization, man, it's very tricky. You know what I'm saying? What sometimes you see as being what should happen is not always what happens. And there's always an ulterior motive behind the actions that you see. It's never, like I said, people create their own rules, their own laws. How could someone be a member that was a former general not have the right to speak their mind on something? You know, I don't know how bad it was he spoke out, but I know he was saying, man, we got to work out. This is becoming bull. You know, and he was right on that. He's right. You know, division and dissension and politicking is what pushes people out. You know, these organizations, man, that talk about a cause and a struggle, there is no cause of struggle, because all it's about is in their pockets. It's an organization. It's a mob. It's a criminal enterprise. You know, these groups could do so much more in the community with the control that they have in these neighborhoods. I mean, instead of pushing agenda to push dope and all that stuff out there, I mean, they should be pushing something positive and establish legitimate businesses and so forth, to where they don't have to rely on criminal enterprises and activities. You know what I'm saying? But they put so much pressure on people to generate that money, and that fast money comes, man, that it's like I said, the whole thing keeps on repeating itself. It's what you call insanity. I don't know why anybody doesn't understand that this happens over and over again. When is it going to change? You know, then MC got killed. Brown Bob got killed. Tibbs is dead. You know, they just killed an NF member up there in High Desert. I knew, Smilone from Sakra. That was about 2 months ago. That was a good mother, man. That was excuse my language, I should call him, that was a good dude right there. Real good dude, man. real likable, you know. And you just got people that are just, like I said, they're vying for power. You know, they're and the only way to maintain that power is to remove any obstacles that present themselves.
Man, as always, Flacco, man, I really want to thank you, man, for blessing us with your presence, man. That was one. Man, thank you for that insight, man. I definitely learned a lot in this segment, bro. And be on the lookout, ladies and gentlemen, man, because Flacco is definitely going to be making a presence in the near future again, man.